Three, two, one. Roll the footage. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Strategy Show. I'm Simon Severino, your host. Today, our guest, veteran coach who helps fast-growing companies manage that growth. He works with businesses that do from 1 million to 1 billion annual revenue. Welcome, everybody, Trevor Throness.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Where are you?
I'm just outside of Vancouver, Canada.
And you play the guitar.
You know, I do. I have too many guitars. You asked about one thing that is interesting about me, and I actually have an affliction called guitar acquisition syndrome, and I have too many guitars. Yes.
You also play them?
I do.
Cool. For us also here?
Well, you know, I could maybe get up a special number for you, yeah, if you really wanted.
Let's see how this evolves.
Right.
Are you currently creating?
You know, I'm currently creating a solution to a problem that I've struggled with for a long time. And that's, how do I scale myself and how do I make my services available to businesses that are under $10 million in sales? Because what I've found is that typically smaller businesses can't afford someone like me. So I've taken everything that I do, I put it into course format, and I offer it online for growth companies so that they can get what is many, many thousands of dollars engagement for just a few $100s. So that's what I'm working on, e-learning, which is an exploding thing, as you know, today.
Super cool. So who is the ideal customer? Who should check this out?
Well, I work with customers who are in fast growth. So typically we say in Canada, hockey stick growth, because hockey is very popular here, but that means they're going like this. They're in very fast growth, let's say 20% year over year. And if they're there, I've worked out this process over 20 years, and it's just basically a step-by-step process to putting your business on a fast track to growth and seeing that growth be sustainable over time.
Love it. Tell us more. So what happens if I'm going over 20% for a couple of years in a row? I call Trevor. What happens then?
Well, what you do is you would start to go through these courses. So it starts at the beginning. Who are you? Like, what are your core values? What's your one-page strategic plan? Because to me, you have to have it on one page so it's simple and everyone can understand. You also asked about, my CEO tips. One of my CEO tips is getting everybody singing off the same song sheet is half the battle. Just getting everyone rowing in the same direction, focused on the same goals, that's half the battle. And that starts with building a one-page strategy plan. And then there are tools for how do you hire A players? How do you build a strong culture? How do you offboard and fire, which all of us have to do if you want to have a strong culture, and lots of different tools like that.
It's funny that you say it, because when I founded my first business, I didn't find anything on firing. So I did to create the firing process myself, which right. At the beginning I called the offboarding process, because we had the onboarding process. Right. So I created the offboarding process.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of firing. And now that I have created the firing system, and we had even some great examples on the show, now it's one module, and we give it also to our clients, like the hiring system, you have the firing system. And right. They're, oh, true, I never thought about that. So it's funny that you say it, because it's one of the things that are not so much talked about, but as an entrepreneur, this is your job.
Nobody wants to talk about firing, and nobody wants to fire anyone, obviously, but it is critical. And the leader is the only person who can get that done. So that's an important one. Another one is just how to have difficult conversations. Like, how do you approach those underperformers and have the tough talks with them that you need to have? That's also a pretty challenging thing.
Because at the end, what is the job of the CEO? It is, I'm curious what you say. We see it as creating the vision and having that updated.
Right.
Onboarding the right people.
Yes.
Offboarding the right people. Creating the job roles and job description. curating joint ventures, collaboration, and being the spokesperson.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my view of CO is similar. It's figuring out where you're going and figuring out how to bring strong people along with you on that journey. And it's easy to say. There's more to it than that. But find the best people, tell them exactly how they're doing, and give them the tools they need to succeed and move forward. I actually wrote a book on that topic. How to have a strong culture. I call it the power. It's called The Power of People Skills. It came out in 2017 by Career Press. And it's just how to get a handle on solving your chronic people problems, because we all deal with them. There's one thing I know about everyone, Simon. When they go home at night and they can't sleep because they're wrestling with a problem, they're talking with their spouse or family about it, that problem is always a person. And if it's a problem of, it doesn't look like a person, it's cash or sales or inventory issues, usually that's the dummy light blinking on the dash. But if you follow that light down to its root cause, that root cause is the behavior of a person who was once great, who has slipped, a person who you're afraid has been over promoted, a person who you're afraid maybe was a mishire, but it's a people issue that you've got to deal with. That's number one.
And that's your first CEO tip, right? Who before what?
Who before what? Yes.
So it's not a system that is missing and that is making you sleep bad, or a market that is changing. You say it's a person thing.
It's a person thing, first and foremost. That's a Jim Collins idea as well, right? We've all read Good to Great. And the first step is get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, then figure out where the bus is going. And then you look at other things downstream, strategy and stuff like that. But what I've found, Simon, is I work in 4 areas, as I'm sure you do. I work in first people in seats. Then I work in strategy. Are you doing the right things you need to do? Then I work in measurement and controlling cash. And then I work in team alignment and communication. But what I found is that until you have the right people in the right seats, none of the rest of it works. So if I have the wrong people, the strategy, you can have a great strategy, but they'll blow it. You can, manage cash, but they'll blow the cash. You can't align a team around the wrong people. So the most important critical thing is that you have the right people first, and then you work on the other stuff. It's not the only thing that happens. It's the first thing that needs to happen.
Why did you start your company? And tell us a little bit about your journey in growing it.
My company, interestingly, I started many years ago, and I bought my company from a person who lived in my town who was looking to retire. And he did much different work than I do. He did training for our federal government. So I started in a training business, and I quickly found that it was quite boring. And so I subbed that out to others, and I started working with companies that were in fast growth because they were exciting. There was lots of stuff going on there, and I enjoyed it. And then I pursued that.
How did you start? Because I guess everybody wants to work with the successful people in the first place because it's much more fun to work with them. How did you go? How was the first weeks?
The first thing I did, I made a living from the training stuff. So I call it hygiene was covered there. I had a sales background. And so I knew of a company that was looking for to build a sales department. So I just came in alongside them, helped them. I ended up taking them through succession. They began to trust me. They referred me to someone else. Along the way, I got certifications. I was certified with Gazelles and, Scaling Up. You may have heard of them. And I've been through, I'm speaking for a Great Game of Business, Open Book Management, next week, actually. So I've been through all of their training, and we all know Patrick Lencioni, The Advantage. We all know Gino Wickman, Traction, and all of the other, 5 choices with Franklin Covey. So I've been through all of that stuff. And I just developed a reputation over time, and now finding clients is relatively easy.
This is really cool. So people, this is how you start. If you say, my clients are boring, which most clients are, and if you want to have better ones, this is how you start. You grab your first ideal client and you say, hey, you want to create something, I can help you create it.
Yeah.
And you do a great job. You over-deliver.
Yes.
And they will tell their friends.
And let me say, when I started, I really didn't know what I was doing. I was willing to put in all the time necessary to figure it out. and I was very committed to the client, but I'd never done it before. I just had to go try it. So I did.
Sometimes the pre-launch is more important than the launch, getting traction first. Some things you can learn on the way. I think that there is a particular case. If you can balance the lack of knowledge with an over-delivering of attention, meaning that you measure every day and overnight you learn it and the next day you deliver it,
Right.
then you can compensate for that. And we have one client right now in the accelerator who has a similar situation, and we were discussing how he should do it. And he said, okay, I will take 50% of the price because he's the first one. And I challenged him and said, he will get much more attention now from you because you will ask every day if this is working, and you will work overnight to learn what you don't know. So he will get the most of you. You should charge 100%, because much later, when you are at the later stage and you have hundreds per month coming in and you don't even know their names and you've just coached the coaches, and then you will be like the big corporates who don't even know who the client is and they don't care. So right now, this is really important, people. This is entrepreneurship. This is how successful people start. And it's not about having all the ducks in a row. It's about having this willingness that Trevor has to say, I am willing to do the best possible job and I will do it.
Yeah. And it's about having a strategy of ready, fire, aim. I think it's about just doing something. You know, as when I was employed, I worked for a man who was a mentor to me, and his strategy was, you know, so I first went out and I was in charge of stores that we had. So we had retail stores all through this area. And I said, I don't know anything about those stores. And he said, you know this much, but they know this much. You know a little bit more than them. That's all you need to know. Now get out there and figure it out. It was about being proactive, I think, and being willing to learn on the job and just do what it takes to get it done.
The next thing is, who is the better teacher? Is it somebody who has done the whole mountain and now basically has forgotten how it is and is also bored about the first 100 meters? Right. Or is it somebody who is just 2 curves ahead of you, maybe just 300 meters, right, but he remembers exactly how it is. He has the tools ready and polished, and he's interested in it.
Yes. Yeah. And the truth is too, as you have done, you know, I've worked with many, many businesses, and none of them are the same. None of them have an absolutely cookie cutter approach, because they're different people in a unique industry with a unique mix of circumstances. So they all have to be taken on an individual basis. They're not exactly the same, of course.
Absolutely. I'm so pumped to go to your second CEO tip, that tolerating underperformers will drive away your best people. But before we go there, let's go to our segment, the Strategy Award. If you could pick only one person who is doing things differently, but the right way in your perspective, who would that be?
One person doing things differently in my profession?
Doing things differently, but according to you, they are doing it right.
Well, you know, one person that is in my local area here, his name is Tim Vipond, and he has started an e-learning website called Corporate Finance Institute, which is really worth your time to have a look at. And he has taken the same approach. He said, how do I scale knowledge for a vast amount of people to be able to access in a simple way online? And so he's put his stuff online, and he's seen tremendous growth with hundreds of thousands of visitors in a month. So to me, that's doing things right in a new way. I think one thing COVID has taught us is that you can do stuff online and have it be pretty effective.
Very cool. Thank you. So your tip number 2, if you tolerate the underperformers, you will drive away the high performers. Can you unpack that?
Yes. So that's the central idea to my book. What I've learned, like I would come home and I would say to my wife, you know, I had the same conversation again. I have this conversation with every business, regardless of industry, regardless of you know, who that person is. And it's always saying the secret to a good culture It's not about having ping pong tables or offering free daycare or something like that. It's about having A players, and A players, by my definition, are just people who have strong attitudes, who have good attitudes, who want to be productive in their role. And when you choose to hang on to underperformers, people who are not productive or people who have low attitudes or both, you drive away your best people. In fact, what I have found in my work is that the reason your A players leave is not money, actually. They leave over first challenge. They've run out of challenge. That's a good reason to leave. If their 10 years experience is 5 years repeated 2 times. But the next reason that they leave is because they have to work with underperformers, toxic people who don't pull their weight, and life's too short for that. So they find somewhere else to work. So the key to your culture is giving regular coaching feedback. I call that coach and connect, simple coaching times, and dealing with those underperformers so that they either move up into the A box or they move on to work for your competitors, which is really what you want if they can't figure it out.
This is so true, and it is so clear, really. And everybody will go, yeah, it's true. Why? And I guess it's also your observation. Why do over 90% of the people don't follow it?
Well, number one, they don't have a tool to figure it out. So one of my courses is called Assessing Your Team. And it's just a simple way to go through that, a 4-quadrant grid, and figure out where each person is. That's number one. Number two, it's fear. It's fear of having the conversation. It's fear of having to replace the person. It's the feeling of, at least they're a warm body. They might not be great, but they're somebody. And so people underestimate the importance of it. But I can assure you, it's absolutely critical to the success of your business to deal with those issues, because the more A players you have, the more A players you'll attract. And the more underperformers you have, the fewer A players you'll attract. You'll drive away the ones you have, and you'll attract other underperformers, just like the ones that you tolerate.
Absolutely. The energy attracts energy. And what I'm curious about is, what are books that inspired you professionally?
So professionally, I just put a couple. I do a lot of reading. I read about 50 books a year. So I'm a fairly passionate reader. But one that I put for right now is another Jim Collins book called Great by Choice. And it's how companies survive in turbulent times. So it's the same parameters as good to great. Those 15 companies that survive, or that, did really well over a 15-year period. But it's companies that were in turbulent markets or went through turbulent times. So it's great advice for all of us going through a shakeup, which happens every 10 years, by the way. COVID is not unusual. This happens every 10 years, and to prepare your company for that happening and for the next one that's going to come.
What is a book that inspires you on a personal level?
A personal level, I'll just list one that I just read over my vacation. I went to a Canadian lake here, and I read a book called Bonhoeffer. And it's a story of a German pastor who stood up to the Nazi regime in Germany. And he was actually executed by the Nazis, but it was just a story of personal courage and moral fortitude. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was an inspiring book on a personal level.
Very current. Last week in Berlin, we had some Nazi flags going on as if it was normal. Very current. And your CEO tip number 3, half the battle in growth is communication. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think that when I go into a fast growth place and I talk to anyone at any level, one of their top 2 or 3 complaints is always the same. It's communication. And that looks like, nobody tells me what's going on around here. Why did that decision get made? What's my future here? And it's communication related issues. So my CEO tip is to have regular, I really recommend daily short huddles where your whole organization huddles every single day. It's a very short time. It's a bathroom break. It's 10 minutes probably, or even a little bit under. And you just have a chance to just synergize, refocus, connect, and move on. So I think that communication piece cannot be underestimated. It's really, really important.
I absolutely support that. I am, as a sprinter, I am famous for not liking meetings. So when I started my company, we tried to really reduce the number of meetings and reduce the length of meetings. But I have changed my mind because I think that communication is key. I absolutely agree with you. And we have a daily huddle. And even if we are in different time zones, so we don't have it all at once, but we create a small video and we have one spreadsheet where everybody puts in their priority for the day and it's there for the whole week.
Yes.
And so we don't need to be there together, but we need to communicate in Slack or in video or whatever, and to have one sheet where everybody knows who is doing what today.
Well, I do believe that that the communication piece, it really should happen daily. I think it's very important just to have that quick check-in to see what everybody's doing. And people get disconnected very fast. And actually, that's been one of the real strengths of COVID, I think, is people have been forced to communicate, because at least in our area, they're not coming into their offices. And so they're forced to have daily huddles, because otherwise no one would really know what to do. So
meetings got so much better since COVID, because people don't come in late. They come prepared. They go directly to stuff. They show, by sharing the screen, they show work instead of talking about work that might be somewhere or that somebody should do.
Yeah.
You just share your prototype. Look, This is what I'm doing. This is the status. I would change this. What do you say?
Exactly.
It's so much better. And tell us about one example of somebody working with you who's having great success.
Well, again, I would just think of Tim, the guy that I mentioned earlier, who he has an interesting history, because he was an investment banker and he thought, I should post some courses to help some people. He really wanted to help some people, maybe make a little additional income. And he posted some courses, and his site really, really has taken off. And so he has become a strategic advisor to my site, gettingpeopleright.com. And we're looking at that same growth trajectory, working on search engine optimization and posting content that's really relevant to entrepreneurs.
So cool. What is one trend that you see right now from your growth perspective that CEOs should take seriously?
Okay, well, here's my view of growth, okay? I think of growth as like, before COVID hit, it's like a frozen tree. And any change you want to make is incremental. It's hard to make because the branches are frozen. Then something happens like COVID and everything thaws. And suddenly everything is movable. But just remember, in a couple months, when it's all over, it will freeze up again. So right now is when everything is changing, and you need to take advantage of that time. And I think the biggest change, one of the biggest change that has happened, is just what we're doing now, is teleconferencing. I think it's going to affect who comes back to the office, how we communicate, how much we have to get on planes and travel to places. I think this is a massive shift that's going to continue in our society for the good.
I like the metaphor of the tree. And it was actually one of the teachers, or my teacher was Kurt Lewin, who said it's freezing, unfreezing, refreezing. So it's a really accurate metaphor for change processes. I love it. Trevor, is there something I forgot to ask you?
I don't think so. I think you did a pretty good job, Simon.
Who should be my next guest?
Well, one person I would recommend is Justin Mitchell. So he's a partner with me in this venture, but he also runs a commercial real estate brokerage in our Vancouver area here, and has lots of investments in West Africa, and is a pretty interesting guy. He's got a lot of stuff going on that I think you would enjoy.
Super cool. Thank you so much for being here on the show. Where can people find out more about you? Where should they go?
They should go to gettingpeopleright.com. Gettingpeopleright.com. And there you'll find all the tools that I have available.
Thank you so much, Trevor. Keep rolling, man.
Thanks, Simon. You too.